Hello, friends. Kyle here. Welcome to North Star Daily. And it's State Fair week, as we've been talking about. We can't talk about the State Fair without talking about food. It's the big thing that draws people today. I remember as a kid that going out, it was just pops, milk, and corn dogs or pronto pups. But it's a big deal these days. 33 or more new dishes at the fair. We're not going to talk about so much which ones to eat and such because nobody's actually had them yet, but we're going to talk about the business, the whys, and who's making money and who's the big winners and losers in the State Fair food battle. And also, we're coming off of the summer season, the end of Operation Metro Surge a few months ago, and the Minnesota Moment. So how is the restaurant business doing in the Twin Cities? I'm going to get an update from my good friend Stephanie March, former food editor at MSP, Minneapolis-St. Paul magazine, and co-founder of Salt Cure, and that gives her the expertise on those local restaurants. You've been reading her work all these years, and of course, I met her all that many years ago, working on the weekly dish together over at My Talk. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for making time to talk to me today. I know how busy you are, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Totally fun.
Awesome. All right, so 33-ish new food dishes at the State Fair, and of course, we will say, I'll fall into the trap. What are you looking forward to?
You're going to go right into what are you looking for? What are you hungry for? I'm looking for all of it. Well, okay. So level set for people. So for the last 15-ish years, I've done with Minneapolis-St. Paul magazine, we did the Get It, Skip It, Your Call guide, which meant that we ate every single new food and bonus food on the State Fairgrounds in one day, on day one. So that by Friday morning, we would you could wake up and then be ready to go with your list of what was good. You got to get it. What is something that is maybe you want to skip it. And then maybe those ones that we're just not going to take a position on because it's your call. So the good news is so last year was my last year doing it. And this year I am out there as a rogue free agent with my kid, and we're just going to eat what we want to eat, which is really
kind of like being out of radio.
Yes, it is. It just is sort of, so we're just going to go have all the good times and eat what we want to eat, not eat what we don't want to eat, which is the key. Because when you have an assignment to eat all the new foods, as I had for the last 15 years, that means that you eat everything regardless if you are excited about it. So,
and then you have to come talk to us on the radio about it and go do the local media tour.
Yeah, which I'm still kind of doing a little bit of because the girls just still want to chat. But I am excited about a few things. There are a few things that are that are on my list. I am excited about the mung corn dog. I mean, anybody who's going to do corn dogs, pronto pups, there's such a foundational food at the State Fair. So anybody doing a riff on that, you better come correct is the thing though, because people are going to be this is a simple food that could be a banger. Or I just hope you don't fail at it. You know what I'm saying?
In it?
It's what?
What is in it?
It's just a mung spiced corn dog. So it's the sausage itself in there, made by Kramarczyk's, but by Union Mung Kitchen.
Okay.
With their recipes. So it's going to be a little bit more flavorful. And then the batter is just a straight up batter. But people get really rabid about their stuff, about their corn dogs, pronto pups. Are you a pronto pup or are you a corn dog guy?
I'm a pronto pup. It's the first thing I eat every year in all my years of radio. The first thing I have is a pronto pup with light mustard. I don't want it slathered.
Yeah, no, I wait until day 2 or 3 for that. And I have to tell you that I used to go for the jumbo Polish corn dog, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can still find it. I think they may still have it, but the original guy that I loved is gone. But I like both. I like a pronto pup. I like a corn dog. I like a poncho dog. I like it all. So,
John Hines was the foot-long hot dog right down the road on Carnes there. So that was his, and that was every day he would have one of those.
I'm saying that. So all right, I'm really excited by the Blue Barns crackling corn ribs. Yeah. Those sound really cool. Those are corn cob quarters. They've pulled them off the cob, dipped in. They got tempura batter and fried. They've got butter and bacon ranch on there. I think that's a winner. That is you don't find many corn dishes because who's going to go up against roasted corn? You know what I mean? That's the king of the fair. But I like the idea of going up against it in a little bit of a cool, and that's corn ribs are a very online thing. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I've had a corn rib. So yeah.
Yeah, I know but there's a lot of kids online doing that stuff, which is cool.
The kids. All right. If the kids are doing it, I'll have to check it out.
be careful about those kids.
Blue Barn really has figured this thing out, though, as far as the business part of it, right? As far as having it's a dish, it'll get attention, it'll get on the newscast, but it's actually edible too.
Yeah.
You're not. I can't think of they've ever had one that's bad. Not all of them are bangers, but they're usually at least going to get a line, unlike some of the the ones that are just flops from the beginning.
Yeah, there's, I mean, I think every single vendor has probably had one that hasn't gone as they've wanted it to go. But Blue Barn does a really good job too of then bringing back those favorites so that, you have to limit your menu. You can't have like 10 years of menu. So, on like one small place. So they do a really good job though of bringing back the favorites. And I think that French toast is back again this year. That was maybe gone. And so they have, to me, it's like they really look at that menu mix smartly, and they think about sweet, and they think about boozy, and they think about, salty, and they get that mix in the right areas, and they just really nail it every time.
So I gave you the old, right, as you look and you age into this demographic that I have now, you get the list of the new food, and I got the bit. I've always understood the bit from a business perspective, but I then look at it and I go, do we need a mung hot or corn dog? Do we need Japanese confections? Like, and that one, I mean, I think that's my pick of a failure that I just don't see people walking around eating.
You know what that's for? And I'm going to write this somewhere, but that's just basically for anybody who's gone to Japan to be able to brag about going to Japan. Cause I'm going to do it. I'm going to be like, remember that time when I was in Japan and I ate those? And you can just say that. But that's one of those things that I think that is an online thing that if you can't find it anywhere, but you can find it at the state fair, those kids who are those food talk kids who are all on their phone and looking at cool things and liking stuff from Japan or elsewhere, if they can now get that at the state fair for 12 days, they're going to love it.
That's funny. That food talk thing, which I am not on, I 100% experienced the first time I walked by one of those Mung. I don't know if it's Mung or who does the fancy corn dogs that I saw it in London, and now we have it over here. They're like,
the Korean corn. Yeah.
Korean. That's it. Sorry. Yeah. And I was like, that has to just be for Instagram. People aren't actually eating these things, but they line up for it.
They're actually, some of them are quite delicious. And I'm going to tell you, there is an actual, I think at Chan's Eatery, they have a Korean corn dog that is going to be, Chan's Eatery does have a pickle Korean corn dog as a bonus food, not an official new food, but a bonus food, which is one of those things that, so the state fair picks an official new foods list every summer. Like they have all the people enter, all the vendors throw their things out there and they try to,
like the Michelin stars of new foods.
Basically. Yeah. And then the fair picks out who they want, and obviously there's like, sometimes everybody puts in nachos. Well, they're not going to let everybody have new nachos. So they'll pick like one or two, or they'll pick, you can see the trends, and then someone can still decide to be a new food. They can still in their booth decide to put a new food up. They don't get the marketing that's behind the official new foods list, but they still get a lot of media coverage from people who are looking to discover something. So,
so let's talk about that. What is the pressure for one of these organizations, a vendor, a first time or an established one, to get these dishes and come up with them and get that free publicity? How much does that mean to their business?
I think it's tremendous. And it's like for a new, I think obviously the fair has to consider, I think that the food team really looks at what kind of food experience they want to cultivate for someone, knowing that the new foods list is like a map for a lot of people, and mostly for the people who are doing multiple days at the fair. So you have people like us who go a couple times, over 12 days. And, you're not going to, maybe you're going to go do new foods for one day, and then you're going to go do your classics, or maybe you mix it up. But that's kind of a map for new discovery into driving traffic. And like those Peachy's Amish donuts, that line, I don't understand that. It's a good donut. I love it. I just don't think I'm ever going to stand in a 2-hour line for donuts. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, like they got on that new foods list. And then because they were on that new foods list, they got, like that line is enduring because of that, I think. And all the media people picked them as like a huge, win. So the new foods list is it's really important to get on. And so in the beginning of the summer, you have there's a day that everybody has to make their new food and bring it to the fair team, to the food team, and then they try it and then they pick, right? So I think if you get on that list, you're guaranteed, traffic. Now,
Right.
for some of these new kids, that's not always a great thing, because the problem is that if you're not ready, if maybe you're a first time vendor, and I will say that last year, those cyclone cakes, I can't remember what they were called, somebody's cyclone cakes. And it was like a puff pastry cone with a giant thing of ice cream on top.
Oh, sure. I vaguely remember those. Yeah.
Right.
I
So
guess vaguely is a bad sign, right?
So we were there day one, and it was a failure. It was a storm because it was lines of humans. They couldn't get their temping right. They didn't have their feet underneath them. It was raw dough and melting ice cream. And it was bad. But that's just because they were not ready. Right. And it was like, if they hadn't been an official new food, they may not have gotten all of that pressure. And I remember seeing them halfway through the fair, and they didn't have very many lines. And I thought that's because they couldn't get it together on day one. And so that's sort of the gift and the curse of being an official new food.
What a wild transition, if you think about that, in our lifetime, from like Juanita's fajitas, and you could just show up. I remember, like, the Runyons came in with the Juanita's fajitas, and like, first off, I hadn't had a fajita in Minnesota. Right. Like, what is this? Right? Yeah. But it's just word of mouth, and it's slow, and you could go up and you get one. Into this day and age now where you're instantly in the press. Everybody shows up on day one, and if you don't crush it, you're done by day 5 or 6.
You have 12 days to make your money. 12 days.
That's but even if Juanita's fajitas had been bad on Thursday, by Saturday they could restore that, right? Like you do enough, and word couldn't get out in St. Paul in 1980 as much as small as it was.
This is true.
You couldn't just instantly tell everybody, look how bad this is. So
no, and also there was just the mass of humanity walking by. Like, that's the truth. Is that there's some things that are pretty great, but they may never get the attention, but they will get the people walking by. So at least you're going to get that stuff.
Yeah. And that comes from the influencers, I guess, right? Is that a lot of influencers we're expecting this year?
Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit of a boost this year because Minnesota was so much in the press this last year. So we have, there was a woman who kind of went viral for saying, forget about Coachella. I want a brand deal to go to the Minnesota State Fair. And she got it. And so she got, she's basically here. It's her first Minnesota State Fair. She's documenting it all. She's a couple other influencers. There's some big brands. Elf Cosmetics has a booth on the grounds and has brought in a host of influencers. So we're going to see a lot of people discovering what it is to be at the Minnesota State Fair on a national level, which is funny. And then you have your locals who are all like, well, here are my tips and tricks. I'm so over how many people telling me where to park and how to do this that I want to be like, I'm about to lay out some really false information just for fun, I
did see the Star Tribune posted this morning if this is your first time going to the fair, and I had both reactions in my journalism brain, right? I was just like, oh my God, come on. But then I was like, I remember how many times at NPR, especially, people would complain about it's always about the people who've always gone. I just moved here. And we forget as lifers that people do move here, and we're glad to have you. And the influencers, welcome. And please come to St. Paul and tell everybody how great it is. Don't cross the river.
I mean, we want the tourism dollars. We want people to love us. We want them to come back and visit. We want them to come to our parks and visit our other restaurants outside the fairground. So I think that's a good thing. I believe that the more that we get people to understand who we are beyond, by the way, the pain that we felt in winter, like if they really want to see neighborism and they want to see true Minnesota hospitality with each other, go to the corn roast and stand with 300 people who you don't know and never will know the name of, but you're kind of hanging out eating corn together and you're tossing your corn and you're like, good one. And you're like, it is literally being at a family cookout for 2 million people. And you can't explain it unless you're in it. So, many years ago, I got to take Harry Smith, from CBS This Morning around the fair.
Oh yeah.
And, and that was like one of those moments where he kept saying to me, he's like, we don't need to eat the corn. I'm like, you need to eat the corn. And he's like, no, what's corn? It's just corn. We don't need to eat it. I'm like, you need to listen to me and understand that this is not normal corn. Right. Nor is this a normal corn experience. And by the end of his corn cob, he was like, you were so right. Yeah. Oh my God. And
we call it crack corn.
He's like, I would have never done that if you had not made me.
I think they put something in the water out there. I'm not sure what
100%.
they're doing, but
It's laced with some sort of
I don't care. Do it. Give it. Put it right into my veins. So, one more on the fair, and then we will talk about what happened this winter and how the restaurants at large are going. It's costly. I hear it's gonna. We don't. Some of these haven't told us the prices on these new dishes.
Every year it's like we all talk about these new foods and then nobody, because they don't post the prices until you get on grounds. And some of them may have like, some places have like shown their building of their booths, and then all of a sudden you see the menu and you're like, oh. And I'm just going to tell you that I remember when cheese curds were $5. Mm-hmm. Remember? I remember when it was like, if $5 was what you're plunking down for everything, it's going to be $10 plus for stuff. I mean, it's going to be hard to find anything. And I think that you're going to find $18 corn dogs, and that's going to be a thing. And people are going to have to feel about that. And they're going to have to deal with it in a way that is really real, because it's pinching. Everyone's getting pinched right now. And food is expensive, and it's not because of the people who are charging because they're making a ton of money. The people who are selling your food are also paying for that food that way. So the one thing I would say is that it's not like you're getting ripped off by those people. Those small businesses are getting ripped off by many other things, which is too long for this program to say. Right. But just be aware, it is going to be more expensive this year.
Wild. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even thought about it until you mentioned it. Well, we had talked. I thought about what I would do and go pay for, but I mean, it's going to be one of those things as we see as influencers come in, and you've traveled across the world too, right? The price goes up, not only just because of the number or cost inflation, food prices everywhere, but then just scarcity, because they will only be able to fit so many people on the fairgrounds eventually. And so ticket prices and all these things will trend upwards just to keep people away.
Yeah.
So it's keep St. Paul small. We're going to have to balance it, right? I'm like, well, I want to be able to drive right in, get right to my Prano Pop.
Right.
But
what if we add a week to the fair?
Yeah, maybe though. I'm surprised there's never been talk of like the NFL schedule started on Sunday. So I'm
just throwing it out there. But before we leave the fair, just to understand that my eventual goal, my career goal, is to be the food czar of the Minnesota State Fair before I retire.
I think, why aren't we on the food testing? That's the who's doing that? We have an expert.
I'm just waiting for my call. I'm here. If you guys want my phone number, I'll post it. So
all right, that reminds. I got a second question, and then I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Is this the new foods here an example of how the food palette of white Minnesota is changing and becoming more accepted? When I started working with you on the Weekly Dish 16 years ago, if I traveled internationally, I went to the Hard Rock Cafe to get a burger so I could eat something I knew. And you opened me up to trying new things, and my world is better because of it. Are we seeing that at the fair? Are is Minnesota spicy? Everywhere else I go, Minnesota spicy still gets talked about. So
I think that's colloquial, and I would say that there's plenty of people who are like, no, that's way too spicy. Of course there are.
Sure.
But that's in New York too. It's like, why we get that as our as a flag we fly is a little weird. But you go to Chicago and there's plenty of people who are like, so whatever. But we have things like the Hmong corn dog, but the Hmong kitchen, on the fairgrounds. We have the Somali fries last year, which were so popular that, the people who from the Oasis Grill are serving them in their restaurant now, because they're not at the fair. We have things like the koshari truck. Last year, I think was the first year of the koshari truck, and it's an Egyptian, bowl of like magic with like lentils and rice and chicken and all sorts of stuff. And that was one of my top eats last year, because as a girl who goes to the fair often, sometimes you're like, I just need to eat something, that's like not crazy, like a stunt food. I don't need a stunt food. I need food.
Yeah.
And so I think that what I love about this is that we are not just ketchup, but we can still have like a corn dog on a stick. We can still have something like, a pretzel mustache from Blue Moon Diner. You know what I mean? Like there's still going to be that stuff. So it's not like we've lost the traditions. We're just adding that's, to me, is what really is Minnesota. It's so wonderful that we all get to have a little piece of this. And then I don't like you're saying, I I am a girl who loves spice. I've expanded my palate. I love all that. I bring hot sauce to the fair. I go because if you're going to go, I buy hot sauce bottle in the International Bazaar, and then I walk it up to Rick's Pizza and get the pickle pizza with hot sauce on it.
All right. She knows what she likes.
Hot tip, babies.
All right. So restaurants elsewhere in the Twin Cities coming off of Operation Metro Surge and what we saw with workers being afraid to come to work and attacks outside of restaurants and people being snatched and all of that, and restaurants closing, having to close for times. What is the scene look like now, months later and through the summer season? How are restaurants, and it's not a monolith, obviously, but a general sense, how are we doing?
Yeah, it's, I think that there's a lot of good news. I guess when you really want to think about it, like, I think our community really came together and showed up for each other, and they really supported the people in the restaurants, not just the immigrant run restaurants. I just have to always point out that every restaurant in the Twin Cities basically has immigrants working and supporting and making it go. And so when we're talking about supporting restaurants, it's important to, do immigrant owned restaurants and support them, but it is everybody who needed it. And I think that what we really saw was people stepping up for each other and then going out and showing up for the restaurants that they loved, knowing, having a remembrance of what 2020 was like when we were when everything shut down, and understanding that the vitality that those restaurants bring to neighborhoods cannot be lost. Like, it's just, we have to refuse to let that go away, because they are our third spaces. They are our community spaces. They are the ones who, when everything was happening, acted as hubs. They were collecting food to bring out to neighbors. They were organizing. They were giving people spaces. They were protecting people. Mm-hmm. And so opening doors and just saying, come in, and we'll hold tight. And that has a lot to do with the way that restaurants are built by people. One of my famous sayings is that restaurants are made of people, and it is literally a hill I will die on, because they don't work without everybody in there. And that's ownerships and chefs and dishwashers and bussers and servers and bartenders. They are a really big, tight community within themselves. And then we take that and we extrapolate that. And that's what makes up Twin Cities hospitality, which is resilient. And they've really stood together. And I think what they would like to see is a continued effort to recognize that it's not just about a $10 burger. It's not just because your drink is, too salty or too sweet. We don't want to think about restaurants as evaluative spaces that are just like worth a star or whatever. They are literally the money in your community that you're putting in that goes out to other places. And so I think that they've done to kind of think about how this summer has gone. I think it was a little worrisome in the front, but I think it's kind of carried through. People are optimistic. I feel that they feel like most places, we've lost a few, and some people couldn't surmount that January, February, March loss. It just was really too much to bear. And I know a couple people who have decided not to open new projects that they were looking at doing, only because they need more time now to recoup some monies and figure out spaces. And so I think we're optimistic. I do think that we're looking at a long haul as far as some of the, with menu pricing and labor costs and everything else coming in. We are in a space that is still tenuous, but I do believe that we have the ability to kind of support and keep going forward.
Yeah, it feels like just on my level, it's going to be a hard one when we keep hearing complaints about, you said $10 burgers and $25 burgers, right? I mean, the inflationary aspect of food costs is not going to go down. The taxes aren't going down. No. Rent isn't going down. Insurance isn't going down. And yet people also can't afford, the menu prices. And then they're, we're into surcharges and all of the ways that people are, that it's getting confrontational instead of communal in many ways. So, right.
And then they're talking about the food supply, with, the harvest was not great. The weather was not great this year. And farmers have been reporting this, and fertilizer tariffs. It's not one thing, it's many things. And so what we're looking at is they're already looking at food prices and wondering how they're going to make that palatable. And one of the things that I think that people don't understand and that I always talk about is that when we talk about, community and building your community and talking about the small businesses, these are the ways that we create generational wealth in our communities, that's recurring, so that it can stand up against these, ups and downs of weather and prices and taxes and governments, is by creating a solid base of, generational businesses. And so it's more than just business. It is the way that community goes forward. So then your taxes get paid by these people, and it all spreads out, but I feel like we've lost that thread, and restaurants are just that easy to understand sort of business model. I think that people, they use them every day. You may not go to the dry cleaner. You may not shop for pants. You may not, retail used to be an economic indicator, but I think now it is truly the service industry. As to how a community is doing. So I'm really hopeful, and I really understand that we have an opportunity to really say something about the way that food is also grown here and then distributed here, and how that can be a really cool cycle. Minnesota has more to say about that. It's
such an as it was such an interesting time. You could have such different lived experiences. I remember one night, one local journalist was talking about what was happening in Minneapolis and saying, we're under attack and it's terrifying and I can't leave my house. And I was at Buffalo Wild Wings and I'm like, everybody here is just fine. And I know that that's white privilege and we're a bridge apart, but there was only a few miles difference and completely different lived experiences. Then I could go across the bridge the other way over to El Burrito Mercado, which I got to do a show with them for Sporkful. And that experience, as you mentioned, completely different. Feeding their neighbors, making sure everybody's being taken care of. Buffalo Wild Wings and Inspire Brands, I love their wings. They're not coming to say, they didn't come and help us, right? There was people there making sure people were being helped and fed and getting around. And so it is a thing to think about when you're choosing where you spend your dollars. And if you're deciding to spend a couple extra bucks, if you have it, to shop locally, as we always want you to.
I think that's going to be more important going forward, just as a rule. More and more people are going to think like that. But then for me, as someone who's been in, city regional journalism, magazine for the last 20 years of my life, that's all we ever did. Hyper local was was everything that we stressed and everything that we celebrated, because we really do believe that here's another piece of this. There's it's so boring, all the same stuff all over the country. If you're going to go to I love a Wild Wings, whatever, but you can find that in Dublin. You can find that in, New York. You can find it in California. Boring. Why wouldn't you seek something that is special? Why wouldn't you, especially if you're only going to pay for one thing, if you're only going to eat wings once, why wouldn't you find something that is different and special instead of the same? I don't know. That's me. I'm an Aquarius though. So
I go both. Yeah. I mean, I go both ways, right? Like I said, I used to just go to the Hard Rock in London because I knew I was going to have a burger.
I know.
So there's the part of me I totally understand routine, and I know it's not good. I know it's not even good anymore. It's gone so downhill since Inspire bought it. And it's not locally based anymore. There's not one by my house. There's no argument for it other than it was just a thing I've done for 20 years. And it gives me that. And the beer is always cold, and it can be reasonably priced sometimes, but otherwise, and when you go to the one at the airport and you go to the one in Chicago, you go to the one in South Bend, they are fundamentally the same. And so sometimes I just also want that, which I get, but most of the time we do choose to be like, oh, that looks terrible, let's try it. Right. Cause you never know. And if it's bad, just eat some of it and throw it away. That's better for your diet. So.
It's better for your diet. Right.
Yeah.
For real.
All right, Stephanie. Well, I hope to, we'll chat after the fair and catch up. It's awesome. And you can, of course, find Stephanie online everywhere. Listen to the Weekly Dish every Saturday on My Talk. And it was great talking to you, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle.